Scott is my cousin's husband. He's a bit of an artisan. Truth be known, he's more than a bit. He's a phenomenal woods craftsman. One of his specialties is to make one-of-a-kind pins. Now, these aren't Bic pens. These are one-of-a-kind works of art that would sell upwards to $300 and $400 apiece. My two sons and I stayed at their home a while back, and while we were there, he created for me one of these pens. It's an amazing pen. I carry it with me everywhere I go. This pen that Scott created for me began as a blank. Now, a blank is not what you're doing right now as you stare at this. No, a blank is a little block of wood about that long. And Scott let me choose from an absolutely huge number of blanks. Now, the one I chose was very special to me because it's a certified piece of olive wood that came from the Garden of Gethsemane. As a follower of Jesus, that just means the world to me. The blank that I chose was a bit of a mess. It had all kinds of markings and divots and lines because of the growth rings and the knots that come as being part of a tree. Scott assured me that this was going to be the perfect piece. And so we went out into his wood shop, and I watched him put this little square blank onto a lathe. Now, a lathe is this thing that spins about 1 billion miles an hour, and while it's spinning, he took knives and he began to cut away all the pieces that were not supposed to be part of this pen. When he got done with that, he sanded it, and then he sealed it, then he assembled it, and then he presented me with an absolutely beautiful and functional piece of art. I carry with me not just a pen, but a piece of art. Every time I use this pen, I'm reminded of what Paul wrote about us in Ephesians chapter 2, verse 10. In that verse, he says, "We are God's workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared," watch this, "beforehand, so that we should walk in them." Most of us consider ourselves to be a bit of a blank. We have knots and we have scars and we have all these defects that, to be quite honest, most of us are a little bit embarrassed of. Some people spend their whole lives trying to cover up these things with nicer clothes or bigger degrees, fancier cars, or bigger wallets. Truth is, all that does is hide the reality that you are a blank. If you want to move from being a blank into something that is a functional piece of art, then you need to do what millions of us have done around the world, and that is come to Jesus, the master craftsman, and say, "Hey, I quit. I know that I'm a blank. I know I've got scars. I know I've got divots. I know I've got all these areas of my life that I'm trying to hide, but I want to give them to you to see what you can do with it. So I'm going to let you be my God. I give my life to you." As you do that, what God does, He takes your life and puts it on, well, for all intents and purposes, His lathe of life. And He begins to shave away things that don't need to be there. And He begins to sand down the rough edges of our lives and our personalities. He begins to seal us with His love and His grace and His mercy. And begins to put us together in a way that we could never be on our own. And what we end up as is a one-of-a-kind piece of functional art. God will make you into a piece of art that has purpose and value in this life. But it only happens when you give your life to Him. If you are not living for Jesus, I want to encourage you with everything I have in me to give your life to Him. Let Him take all of those divots and all of those scars and let them become something that is beautiful and unique and useful in this life. If you do, your life will never be the same. I'm Stephen Zemanek, and I'll see you next time.